Hi guys, and welcome to this video where we're going to have a look at styling up our web page. Now I've got the web page for Samoa Heart of the Pacific open here in Dreamweaver. Now I'm going to work just in code view here and basically swap between this and the browser, so there's no reason at all that you can't do this in Notepad++ as well. Some of the color selections I'm going to choose, I'll give you the hard codes for that. We'll have to have a look in class to see how you might use an online color picker if you don't have access to Dreamweaver. Okay, I'm just going to minimize this at the moment. So here's our code. So just looking at this in a browser, this is how our web page is looking. Okay, so basically a functional web page but without any styling at the moment. Okay, so let's get started with this. Now the first thing I have done is I've put a link to two online fonts here, Varela Round and Open Sans. Now to get this code here, you can either basically just type this in as you see it here. It is also on OneNote. So as you can see here, okay, this is the two lines that I've put into OneNote for you. Okay, so let's begin. Right, so some of this I'm going to type as we go. Other bits I'm going to copy and paste over from an existing one, just to save time. Okay, so I've got our styling tags there. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the default padding and margin. Sorry, I tend to make a lot of mistakes as I type, as you can probably pick up from previous videos, but there you go, that's just the way it is for me. Okay, got rid of the default padding and margin. Please don't forget these semicolons at the end of these CSS lines. Without those, it can cause all sorts of unexpected problems. So please make sure you put them in. And if you are having unexpected problems with your CSS, go and check that you haven't left out one of those semicolons somewhere. Okay, so let's just do another rule here, and then we'll go and have a look in the browser, see how that's looking. Okay, I want to choose the font family. And I'm going to use this Open Sans. And Varela Round. Notice that for these ones that have two bits in the name, you have to put quotation marks around it and get the spelling right. Verdana, one name, doesn't need quotation marks. Did tell you I make a lot of spelling mistakes, didn't I? Alright, font size. Now we're going to try and use proportional font sizes so that when we change the size of the page, I'd like the parts of the page to actually resize. Now one thing that won't resize is the fonts, but using percentages with your default being 100, then you can sort of use that as a reference. So if we set something to 120%, we know it's 20% bigger than the body font, and 100% is equivalent to 16 pixels. Right, the color, I'm going to set a color for the font of not black, but a pretty dark grey, and background color. Okay, I'm going to make this a sort of light grey color. That's going to be the background of the whole page. I'm going to set a margin on the top of 30 pixels. I don't like web pages that are jammed right at the top of the window, of the browser window, so I tend to put a margin at the top there just to force it down a bit. Right, let's just have a quick look over that, everything looks okay. I haven't got any spelling mistakes still. Right, so save that and let's go back to our browser and refresh that. Okay, it's looking like I expected it to. We've got the grey background, the fonts come through, and we have that remove the padding and margin. That's good so far. Okay, now part of the structure of the page, if you might recall, if I go back to this view here, this is how we're wanting it to look. So I want a centered window, centered inside the browser window is our web page, and I'm also going to have a fixed width. Now to try and achieve that, we've got a section with a class of wrapper and our whole web page is inside that. So I'm going to target that wrapper, the class wrapper, and this then should be something that's going to affect the whole web page. Right, so I'm going to set the maximum width, but I'm also going to set a min width as well. And once again, this is basically so that when I resize the page, okay, it won't have some problems below 700 pixels. That's why I'm setting that to be a minimum, and this will still be pretty good for tablet size devices as well. Okay, I want a bit of room on the left of the page, so I'm going to set, margin left and right being auto, simply is used to center the page inside the browser window. Okay, background color. I would like a background color for the actual page itself, not just the whole browser. So I'm going to set this to sort of that greeny blue color, which is A6 D4. And also don't like web pages that are jammed right at the bottom of the browser window. So I'm going to put a margin on the bottom of 20 pixels. Okay, we'll leave it like that for now. There's one other thing later I'm going to add to this, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, let's check to see I've got all the semicolons, no spelling mistakes. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, that's starting to look good. Okay, one thing which hasn't come through, which is the color. So let me just go back to that rules there. What did I leave out, guys? Well, I made two errors there, two A's. And what else have I left out? That's right, the hash at the beginning there. Alright, so let's save that and check the browser again. Alright, so there's my color on the background of the page. Alright, let's move on. Okay, the next bit I'm going to do is to really get some stuff done with the navigation. Now I'm going to copy and paste quite a bit of this, but let's just start off with typing one part of this. Now the navigation, okay, I've simply got some nav tags here, as you can see, and some unordered list and some list items with some links inside there, the anchor tags. So we're going to target just nav for a start. Notice it's not .nav or anything like that, because this is simply a tag. Now I am going to set a specific height, at least at the moment, for the navigation. We might change this later. I like the font inside here to be a bold, so I'm going to set that font weight to be bold. Now, I could actually have done that on the list items as well, but this will be affecting everything inside nav, so we can put it here too. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do on that for now. Now these other bits I'm going to copy and paste over a bit, so you just see some stuff magically appearing here. So this next one, okay, so you've seen this before in that exercise you did on making horizontal navigation. We're targeting each of the list items. We're going to float them left. So in other words, this should basically help each of the list items to stack horizontally. Now, why 25% width? Because we have 4 list items, 4 lots of 25 makes 100%. So that basically will force each of the buttons, if you like, to take up a quarter of the horizontal width. List style, none. Okay, so this should actually get rid of the bullet points. This should force here the text align center, the text to be inside the middle of the button, and I am going to put a border on the right at the moment. Okay, now I'm just going to show you what this looks like. I think we'll find that the last of these list items sort of drops down below the others, and we'll just see if we can explain why that is happening. Yeah, okay, so here's our 3 of the essentially what's going to become buttons in a moment, and the 4th one is dropping down. Now why is that? Well, each of the list items is taking up 25%, but then we added a border on the right, as you can see here. Now that means that we're using up more than 100%. So one way of getting around this, okay, is to do this next little rule. We're going to target the very last list item. So we do that by once again targeting the list item, but then using the pseudo selector. That's what this is called. Last child, meaning the last of the list items inside the unordered list inside nav. Okay, and notice the margin on the right, notice that negative 30. That is the effect of basically pulling this last list item back to the left. So let's save that and have a look at that. Okay, now that's pretty good. We've managed to pull this over here a bit. Okay, and it's now no longer dropping down here. Of course, this little bit sticking out here isn't brilliant, so we'll need to see what we can do about basically still tidying this up a bit. Okay, let's get back to it. Next thing I'm going to do is target the anchors. Okay, this height being 100%, basically when we start resizing things later, it's needed for the browser Safari to work. So you could try leaving that out and seeing how things are going, but I'd leave it in for now. Remember, display block makes the whole of the anchor region selectable. The color, this is basically making the links a black color. Text decoration, none, gets rid of the underlining. Now remember, the default color was blue, so this is just changing that to black. The padding top and bottom is just trying to get the anchor sitting nicely sort of like in the middle of the button, and I am making the font size smaller than the default. You might recall the default was 100%, so this is 10% smaller. Now you can play around with that figure to get something that you prefer. Okay, save that and let's refresh this. Okay, that's looking not too bad. Notice that the whole region here is now selectable. Now later on, what I'm going to do is come back to here. I'm going to use a bit of a gradient fill on this whole thing here just to style it up better. Now we could at the moment put a border on the bottom of each of our list items, except maybe the last one. So we could actually get rid of that border on the last one there. Yes, I think we might do that just to make that stand out a little bit more sensibly at the moment. Okay, so this border, okay, we've got the right one at the moment. Let's just copy that. And let's put a border on the bottom. Check that out. Okay, not looking too bad. Got a little bit of a weird gap here, so we'll have to come back to. And this last child, we might be able to use that selector. Don't want that break there. And let's just put none, but change it to right. So look at that. Alright, that's looking okay-ish at the moment. Yeah, still need to do more work on this later. Okay, but that'll do for now. Alright, the next part, before we finish this part of the video, we're going to get our content area here divided up into two columns. This stuff which is down here, the practical information, this stuff is in an aside, and I'd like that to be in this region here, okay, which is going to make it a column. Right, so let's try and achieve that. Now, how is this divided up again? We've got a section with a class of content. Let me just highlight that. That's all of that. And then we have an aside region which has got the stuff that's going to go in the other right column. So we're going to use the float property to create these columns essentially. Right, so I'm going to target this section with a class of content, and let's float this to the left, and we're going to make it a width. Now I'm going to use percentages here again, and the reason why I'm using percentages is that when I resize the page, percentages allows it to resize dynamically. Now I'm also going to put a bit of margin on the left and the right to give a bit of visual separation between the left hand edge, and also make sure I've got some space between the left column and the right column, so putting a margin on the right gives a bit of room on the right. Okay, I think that will do for that at the moment. Alright, let's have a look at this. Okay, it's looking pretty good, except, okay, why we're getting this weird cutting off of the blue. Come back to that. But here we've got now this left hand column, and notice that we've got a little bit of room on the left hand side here, and a bit of room on the right. Now we're going to narrow this even further and make the text a bit smaller in this region, and that should tidy that up. Of course, we need to tidy up this bullet point sort of sticking out in the left there. And we also need to talk about why is this getting cut off here. Well, let's deal with this now. This content region is floated. The aside region and also the material in the footer is not. So notice that when you float something, if you have something like a colored background, it will only extend as far as the non-floated content. Okay, so think about that again. If we have floated content, okay, the background color or even a background image will only extend as far as the non-floated content. Now I want the blue to go all the way down to here, and later on this footer information needs to go down here as well. So how do I achieve that? Well, there's a very handy little selector or rule that we can apply to the wrapper, and it's the overflow property, and we can set that to hidden. Now, why does this work? I'm not sure exactly why it does, but it's used by web developers all over the place. It has the effect basically of forcing the wrapper to recognize the fact there is floated stuff there, and to basically wrap everything and close everything. Let's go back to there, and here we go. Okay, now I've got that blue color extending all the way down that I'd like it to. Notice that the bullet points are now hidden. These were overflow stuff, so yes, it is hidden. And we would like to bring this in a little bit later, so we'll do that later. Right, so let's just finish this off and get the side region tidied up. So this is a section, okay, with a tag of a side inside it. Now, and a side tag is a new HTML5 tag used for things like sidebars, and we can just target that directly. Notice no full stop in front because it's not a class, it's a tag. Alright, so we're going to float this one to the right. We're going to set some width on it of 30%. And I'm going to put some margin on the right. And I'm going to set that to 1%. And later on we'll make the text a bit smaller as well, but for now, okay, having a look at that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We've got a little bit of room on the right there so the text is not jammed right up against the edge of the blue and on the grey there. Okay, and we have a bit of visual separation between the left and right hand columns now, and we've sort of got our navigation not looking too bad, but still needs a bit more work. Right, so this will do for now. This is something we're going to come back to and style further in part 2 of this styling. Okay, so we'll catch you then.